Peter Sellers was one of the most successful comic actors of the 20th century. He appeared in 60 films in a dazzling variety of guises. He was called the human chameleon, the man of 100 faces. He claimed to have no identity of his own outside the characters he played. Yet the real Peter Sellers did appear on film, his own film. He obsessively recorded his life on his own cameras. These films feature his friends, himself, his family, or anything that took his fancy. He always used the latest professional equipment, yet he hardly ever showed the end results to anyone. Sellers' own films represent him on his own terms. Some survive in fragments, some in finished sequences and routines. Arena presents them for the first time as part of the Peter Sellers story.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Following my dramatic success at the Goons Institute Penge, I'm presenting this afternoon in our fresco for the very first time a few very successful and highly dramatic quick changes. First will be done, if I may say so, in the amazingly short time of 11 seconds flat. And here's, I think, I can claim quite safely to be the only one in Europe performing these amazing feats before your very eyes, without extra paraphernalia whatsoever. No trickery, no, nothing at all. May I present, ladies and gentlemen, my impersonation in 11 seconds flat, before your very eyes, of Her Royal Highness, Princess Margaret!
You are off the Gambrelli case. And you will report for duty to the Department of Records.
Department of Records?
In Martinique.
What?
Tomorrow morning, or you can forget your pension.
But that is not fair. I was only doing my duty. And I'm right, you will see. Maria Gambrelli is not a murderer. There is something personal in this.
Yes, deeply personal. I hate you. Every little bit of you. Now get out!
You want me to leave? You are making a terrible mistake. If Maria Gambrelli is not a murderer and I say she is not, you are sending an innocent girl to the guillotine. Excuse me, Francois. And another thing! Good evening. The Antique and Curio Shop. We have with us this evening Mrs. Agnes Sellers, the well-known antique dealer and candle maker, and she's going to give us her opinions of several pieces of antique Georgian silver which had been obtained for Mr. Peter Sellers by Mr. David Mappin. Mrs. Sellers, could you give us your judgment on these pair of very exquisite candlesticks? Would you say they are early, would you say they are first, second, or third George?
I should say they were second. I should think about the 17th century.
Well, I'll tell you, in fact, they are George the First.
In perfect condition.
And now this coffee pot. Careful
Yes.
not to spill it, because there may be some Georgian coffee still in it. You never know.
Peter Sellers' mother, Peg, started life in the theatre. So did he. He was born into a music hall family called the Rays.
I used to travel around with my mother and father, and all over the country when I was a kid. See, my mum very much wanted me to go into the theatre and continue, because my grandma was in the theatre as well, you see. The whole family were.
Right. What kind of an act did they do, Peter? What did Mum do?
You know, Mum used to stand there in white tights thing. It was a real daring thing then, you see. And they used to project slides onto Mum, and she would depict, you know, various famous characters from history, you see, as the slides changed. And my dad would be playing the old Joanna in the front there, or something like that.
Throughout Peter's early years, he would have stood in the wings and watched the posing act, as we called it. Don't forget, between 1925 and 1935, it was very adventurous. Peg to be in what we now call a leotard was unheard of. You didn't even go on the beach in a costume like that. The family was on the road with the shows. They were traveling around the country with our grandmother, Ma Ray, who had a touring revue, which was a complete show with 24 dancing girls, comedians, singers, speciality acts. One of them was called Splash Me, with a huge aquatic tank on stage with girls diving in and swimming in unison and in patterns.
Didn't the tank break somewhere and flood the orchestra pit?
Yes, there was that.
That's right.
Yes.
All the musicians had to get out. They were all drowned.
Yes. And Auntie Peg married Bill Sellers, who was the musical director of one of the shows, and hence Peter Sellers.
Dad was convinced always I was going to be a road sweeper, you see. He always told me, very encouraging with Dad, you see.
Yeah.
So you turn out to be a bloody road sweeper, will you? I'll tell you that.
Is he Yorkshireman?
Yeah.
Aye, lovely.
Aye, you're right, bloody Yorkshire. When Dad was...
What do you mean a right bloody Yorkshireman?
But I'll tell you why. When I first went up to Bingley in Yorkshire, where Dad's people came from, my granddad said he'd heard that my dad had been appearing at the Alhambra. Dad used to be the organist at Bradford Cathedral, you see. A young lad, you see. And to be in the stage business, you know, was all sort of sinful in a way, because they were farmers and whatnot, you know. When he was teaching me to play the banjo, legend had it that he taught George Formby. I don't know whether he ever did, actually, but he used to boast about it. Anyway, he probably did, actually, because he was quite good on guitar and whatnot.
I've got a clock that wakes me every morning for my... No.
Jim and oh golly gosh, oh gee, I'm falling in love and so is she. I haven't told her, she hasn't told me, but we know it just the same. Saturday night on her settee, oh what a time there's going to be. I haven't told her, she hasn't told me, but we know it just the same. We don't do much spooning, but we will. You wait until we're honeymooning. Saturday night on her settee, oh what a time there's going to be. I haven't told her, she hasn't told me, but we know it just the same.
Peg dominated the family, and Bill Sellers was a quiet, gentle man, wouldn't say boo to a goose. And Peter inherited both of those qualities.
That's right, yeah. He took his musical technicalities from his father, and once he was on a stage, then his mother's side, her strengths and personality came out in him.
Then the minute the camera stopped, he'd go back to himself again.
To Bill Sellers, yeah.
When Sellers' grandmother, Ma Ray, died in 1932, the travelling shows began to run down. Bill Sellers remained on the boards with his ukulele act and saw less and less of his wife and son. Peg and Peter headed for London, where they constantly moved house, a cheaper alternative to paying the rent. To make ends meet, Peg went from door to door under the guise of a concern grandly entitled the London Gold Refining Company. With the young Sellers as her companion, she travelled the home counties, buying and selling on the pretext of being an antiques expert.
Now, this I should imagine. I don't know. Of course, I am not an expert. Near enough.
Oh, I thought you were an expert.
No, near enough to buy Georgian silver very cheaply.
Yes.
And to sell it at a very heavy price.
You'd take that on a callback, would you?
Oh, indeed.
Yes.
You see, most people that you go to
Yes.
see have these sort of things left to them.
Yes.
And you can't have all knowledge of things. You have
Well,
a
that
little.
was actually left to me by arrangement with money. This
yes.
is a plain Taford coffee pot made in London in 1737 by Francis Pages and overstamped with the maker's mark ID. It was engraved with the crest of
Peter, in fact, was christened Richard Henry. The first child was christened Peter and died before he was a year old. And so Peter, and he never knew quite why, was always called Peter, not Richard Henry. And in a sense, he took the place of the dead child and was, during his formative years, totally smothered in maternal affection. She was an archetypal Jewish mother, because Peter was Jewish on the maternal side. His mother was Jewish, and the family was Mendoza, the great bare-fisted boxer Daniel Mendoza. Peg was the prime influence in Peter's life, both positively and negatively. And it was a thin divided line between love and hate, the relationship.
His mother's itinerant lifestyle deprived Sellers of a settled education as he constantly moved from school to school. In his last school, he was put in a class of boys 2 years his junior. It closed down when war broke out, and Sellers' education came to an end. He was still only 13. Peg took him to Ilfracombe in North Devon, where her brother managed a theatre. There they were reunited with his father, Bill, who had never left the stage. It was here that Sellers' life as a performer really began.
I got a job in an uncle's theatre at Ilfracombe. My mother used to say I should never ask, anybody in the theatre should never ask another person to do a job they couldn't do themselves, you see. So I was apprenticed sweeping out after each performance. That was the first job. I had 10 bob a week. And then after that, I used to take tickets on the door. Then I did front of house, which is, as most people know it, as box office. Right. And then from box office, I went to assistant stage manager, front of house, lights, assistant stage manager, and gradually progressed my way up to playing small parts like Your Carriage is Without, things like that, or Hello, or something like this, you know, minor, diddly-poo things.
In wartime Ilfracombe, Sellers learnt to play the drums and soon graduated to performing in his father's band. When Sellers was called up in 1943, his showbiz background qualified him for the RAF's legendary entertainment unit, the Gang Show.
I first met Peter early in 1944. I got transferred into the RAF Gang Shows, the RAF entertainment unit. And there I met Peter, who was a young, rather fat drummer. Wonderful jazz drummer, had been trained as a drummer. Well, now, he was coming up to 20 and I was coming up to 24, so the difference of 4 years made me a man and him still a boy. And he acted like a boy, he behaved like a boy. A rascal, actually. And we were based up on the 3rd floor of a big barrack block. And while we were unloading our various instruments and things, Peter his drums, out came the makeup box. This time it was a full handlebar moustache, parted hair, lieutenant's bars again, wings, medal ribbons, nice makeup, and away he went. I said, "Where are you going?" He said, I put him on the voice. "I think I'm going down to inspect the lads downstairs." I said, "You can't do that, for God's sake." "Don't worry." And remember, at the time, he was the lowest rank in the Air Force, aircraftsman, AC-2. I think he did it because he didn't like himself as he was. Later years, he said he'd like to look like Frank Sinatra. I don't know why. I suppose he meant slim. He didn't think he was attractive at all, and he didn't like being a nobody. And he wanted to be somebody which he couldn't be, so he pulled on that disguise, which later in his professional life became the key to his great success, because that's what he could do. He could transform himself into anything he wanted.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you to imagine the scene on a battlefield inside a rather battle-scarred headquarters, and there are 3 high-ranking American officers standing around a table, and they call this young lieutenant into the room. It goes like this. Lieutenant Hargreaves? Lieutenant, I have called you here because we are in a very, very grave position.
Yes, sir.
We are not only completely... Oh, one moment, Lieutenant. Hello? HQ? Yes, we're done. And another thing, goodbye. Lieutenant, we are not only completely surrounded by units of the 15th Panzer Division, but they are at this very moment, Lieutenant, surrounding and penetrating our main defense line.
Yes, sir.
The characters Sellers met in the war would be the inspiration for some of his most famous creations. Sellers' brief war had basically been a continuation of his show business experience. When the war was over, he returned to live with his parents in a flat in East Finchley and set up an act, an unlikely combination of drumming and impersonations.
Well, I used to do, as they say, stars of stage, screen, and radio. I used to do
Peter Lorre from the Morty's Falcon, you remember?
And I used to Humphrey Bogart and Peter Lorre and Sidney Greenstreet. My God, sir, you are a card. You really are a card.
Stop twisting my arm. You're hurting my arm. You're hurting me.
So a selection of those. It's to Tommy Hanley. Well, isn't that nice? What is it?
It's me lodger's leavings.
Well, I'll go to the foot of our set. TTFN. What does that mean? He said, Teta for now. No, she said, YTYTK. What's that? She said, you're too young to know.
I was in the RAF in the gang show, but I lost my family in the war, you see, and I was always on my own. So I used to come home, you see, and live in this terrible club. No disrespect to the club, but, you know, it was £1 a night to get a bed there. And Peter was outraged. He said, you mean to say you go back there every night? I said, yeah, I've got nowhere else. And with that, he said, right, he said, and got in the car and took me up to North Finchley. And there was a block of flats, and underneath his flat, he got me fixed up in my first post-war place. My memory is that he was rather shy. I mean, he used to great one for the fantasies. He used to boast, God knows why, that he was descended from Lord Nelson once upon a time. He used to sort of hint at it. He lived with his mum, Peg, and his father. He was her only child, but it was an absurd only child in the sense that the world revolved in her eyes round him. I mean, she literally worshipped him. And she was not obviously happy when the women emerged because, of course, it was a threat to her love for him.
November 1946. Hilda, my dearest darling, Mum woke me up this morning with a cup of tea and your lovely letter. Hilda, will you marry me next year? We will both be 22. He was living at home with his parents, 211B High Road, East Finchley. We were family friends. We're all in the same business, show business. My family was around the eastern counties just after the war. We were running a big fairground because it was holidays at home. Theatre, stage, holiday camps, fairgrounds, you name it, we did it. He started writing as soon as I got back to Norfolk. And from then on, they didn't stop for 3 years. At least once, twice, and sometimes even 3 times a day. And I've got some letters 16 pages long. Dearest Hilda, if you ever took it in your mind to pack me in, I would go completely round the bend. I need you so much. From the window, I can see the backs of rows of dreary-looking houses. An overcast sky looks down on the tax and cut tortured England. When I get to the top, I'll get you a Rolls Royce, throw in a few butlers for luck. And one day he came up to see me in Norwich. He always signed in at the best hotel. Even if he didn't have the money, sometimes he left his watch. And he signed in as Lord Beaconsfield. And he came over to me and he said, come and see how they're treating me at the hotel. They're laying the red carpet out. They're all bowing and scraping to me. And so I did. I went over with him, only to have 2 biggest detectives you ever saw come up to us. And they had gone through his case and found 5 Woodbines and shirts from Marks and Spencer's and Woolworths. I just thought, well, this is the time to tell him, because I didn't want to marry him. He was getting more work, so he didn't have so much time to write. But we did keep in touch, because I wrote to see how he was, and he wrote back straight away, and then finish, you know.
Notwithstanding this early rejection, Sellers' career seemed unstoppable. After a stint at the Windmill Theatre, he was recruited into Ted Ray's hit radio show, Raise a Laugh. This was the age of radio, and Sellers became a household name. Now able to command high fees, he would never be short of money again.
Troubles away and raise a laugh.
He acquired a 16mm camera and an agent, Dennis Selinger, who would represent him for the rest of his life. It was Selinger who introduced him to an up-and-coming young actress who would become his wife.
I would think I probably laughed more with him than anybody I've known in my life. Probably cried more too. He always said what he saw himself as it was a big, fat, jolly boy. And he was really very fat. Well, he's about 14.5 stone, I think, then. And he had sort of long, wavy hair. He used to wear these huge suits with great, wide shoulders. I think he looked a bit like a spiv, really, you know. I don't think I was particularly bowled over by him at that time, but I went to see him on stage, and I think that's really when I started to be interested, because on stage he was absolutely extraordinary, wonderful. When I first met him, he was doing Razor Laugh, and then, of course, the Goons show.
You got your sock full of spaghetti ready, Echo?
Yeah, I'm keeping mine warm.
Ah.
I got it on.
Ah.
I used to live with him in his house. I noticed a rather, I don't know, unpleasant relationship between him and his mother. I used to sleep on a lilo by his bed. I spent half the bloody night blowing it up, and it spent the rest of the night going down when I slept on it. So I'd end up on floorboards. And he'd say in the morning, Peg, Peg, Peg. She'd say, what is it, dear? Can I have some breakfast, Peg? And I realized that he was doomed for a heart attack through sheer lack of activity. He'd always sit and never stand. He bought shoes with elastic sides so he wouldn't have to bend down to tie up the laces. And I just think, I said, Peter, you're not taking much exercise. No, I don't need it, he said, I'm naturally fit.
Sellers was a rising star. Milligan was a struggling scriptwriter. They quickly became firm friends. As the architects of one of the most revolutionary comedy programs of its time, the Goons, their names were to be linked forever.
He was really instrumental in getting me into the BBC. He was very kind like that.
What were you straining for, Bottle?
It's my new correspondence course in muscle type development. Straining the type heaves.
Do some.
Heaving type strains. Pull tug. Wrench lift. Wiki, wiki, wiki. Makes funny face. Wait for applause, not a sausage. Pull tug lift. Ooh.
That was the Goons Show, a recorded program featuring Peter Sellers, Harry Seacombe and Spike Milligan, with arrangement quartet and Max Gilbert. The orchestra was conducted by Wally Scott, script by Spike...
I mean, I never thought of anything other than the fact that I miss doing the Goons Show on Sundays. I mean, the big thing in my life, anyone said to me, when did you have the most fun? What were your happiest days? Well, they were the Sundays.
Sellers first got to know Milligan at Grafton's, a pub in Victoria, which by 1949 had become an informal meeting place for young comedians. Two other regulars were Harry Seacombe and Michael Benteen. The four quickly recognized each other as kindred spirits.
Enter an agent for Harry Seacombe, Jimmy Grafton, Major Grafton, Military Cross, who ran a pub in Westminster. Jimmy had an in with the BBC and with scriptwriting. Through Harry, Jimmy met Michael Benteen. Through Michael Benteen, Jimmy met Peter Sellers. And through all of them, they met up with Spike Milligan.
We used to meet at the Grafton Arms when we used to go through this insane mime routine which kept customers out of the pub for months. We used to experiment with an old wire recorder, do our own shows and things. Or we'd put an LP on of Arthur Rubinstein playing the piano, and we'd pretend to be the old, good old Arthur, good about the old left-hander, Arthur, so interjecting over the music.
In 1951, the four had their first show on the BBC. It was produced by Dennis Mayne Wilson.
They wouldn't let us call the first series the Goon Show. It had to be called Crazy People, because somebody said nobody would know who the Goons are. And I think it was Peter who said nobody knew who Take It From Here is. Michael Benteen left because he wanted to do comedy his way. And then the second series was, we insisted, the Goon Show.
I mean, we had common things like Lewis Carroll, and I was introduced to the Canadian humorist Stephen Leacock, who wrote very funny things, which could have come out of the Goon Show. I mean, something in the lad's upturned face appealed to him. He threw a brick at it, that kind of thing. So we had those things in common. And the Marx Brothers, and we're all devotees of Buster Keaton rather than Charlie Chaplin. And we both had movie cameras. Well, but whereas I had a Bell and Howell, he'd have an Arriflex, perhaps. And we took pictures of undercrank. We liked undercrank film, all this. I couldn't move very fast. I had an 8mm camera, and he had a 16mm camera, because he was richer than me. He was richer by 8mm.
Moriarty.
Yes, what did I go by? What is it?
Take a letter in gargling fluid. To the Postmaster General. Dear General, according to the shape of my knees, I believe that an illegal raffle for the equator is being held, and for certain monies I will reveal the organizer. Let's have that back, please.
Remember when we first met up, we had this thing inside us, we wanted to express ourselves in a sort of surrealistic form. We thought in cartoons, we thought in blackouts, we thought in sketches, we thought of mad characters, we thought of take a situation and instead of letting it end normally, let it end the other way, twist it around, you know.
How about this one here? Oh, that. Well, of course, that is the great pyramid of Thutmose III, son of Ka, the sun god, great pharaoh of the upper and lower Nile kingdoms, conqueror of the Scythians, the Assyrians,
treasure vault of the Ptolemies and the greatest pyramid in the world.
How much?
8 bob.
8 silver shillings for a pyramid? but it's second-hand.
Curse, the man must be an Egyptologist.
No, I can't pay 8 shillings.
All right, very well, then 9.
9 and 6.
10 shillings.
10 and 6.
Sold to the knit in the plasticine boots and lead trilby.
The characters became, they became real, so real for us. It's strange when you listen to the shows now, recordings of the shows, how the characters change over the years, the sound of the characters.
You'd be in a taxi with Peter, and he would listen to the taxi driver talking, and when he would get out, he would be that taxi driver. But not only in words and voice, but in his whole metabolism would have changed. This was uncanny. I can remember having dinner with Peter when I was doing a show called Educating Archie, and we had somebody in that show who had gone, who he died. And it was just Peter and I having dinner, and I was like my head down like that. And I heard this man who had died speaking, and my back hair went up like that. When I looked across the table, Peter was eating there, but he had changed his metabolism, and he was this man. And I had to say, give up, stop it.
When he did a voice, he'd become the character. He used to do an impression of Max Bygraves, and all he did was he did something like that with his mouth. And you look at Max Bygraves, and he had, it didn't matter what character was called up, he'd think, think of a voice for it. But if you asked him to do a Peter Sellers voice, he couldn't do it. He always had to hide behind something.
He wasn't very happy with me acting. I think he was such a possessive person that, in fact, he preferred me to be around the whole time, so he never really liked me acting. He never really liked me going away anywhere. And, in fact, he was always throwing tantrums or scenes or saying he won't let me out of the flat, or he'd taken 100 aspirins just as I was going on stage. But I guess one got used to that in time too, and you'd think, oh, well, it was just Peter throwing a tantrum, He was like a spoilt child, really, at its worst, when he was like that. He had been used to this woman that would allow him anything, that however badly he behaved as a child, he was allowed just to get away with it. And I guess he thought, well, I mean, that was instinctive in him. He thought that all women would be like his mother.
Sellers had married Anne Levy in 1951 and moved out of his parents' home and into a flat overlooking Hyde Park. His first child, Michael, was born in 1954. With the Goons now established as a weekly event, Sellers was appearing in several small-scale British films and was still making his own. To appear in an Ealing comedy was the ultimate accolade for a British comic actor. Sellers was cast as a small-time crook in The Lady Killers, a black comedy about a gang of eccentric robbers. Led by Alec Guinness, their dastardly goings-on are found out by their elderly landlady. Reluctantly, they feel compelled to silence her.
Harry and Louis are desperate men. We must be careful. Let's get this clear. No one is running out now. That Goosehead is unreliable and dangerous. I had to sweeten him. That leaves the three of us. All right.
Lady Killers. Of course, Peter then was only a Goon star. He was not a film star. He struck me as a very charming, chirpy little spiv with a big car, big red Bentley outside the studio, prominently parked every morning. And I had a feeling that he was rather impressed working with a lot of established, so-called established actors like Alec Guinness and others. And he was very nice. We struck up a friendship, and he gave me and the others a special farewell present, which he had recorded on a tape. He was an interviewer. He played the interviewer. He interviewed Alec Guinness, myself, and so on, and he acted all the voices, and it sounded exactly like all of us, and not like Peter Sellers.
How do we know we can trust her to do it right if she don't even know what she's doing? I tell you, I hate little old ladies. I want it settled here and now. No one is indispensable, Louis. Only the plan, my plan. Do you agree, Medron? Well, I'm with you, Professor. After all, it is £12,000 all round. One round? I'm staying with Ma. I'm staying with Ma. I'm staying with Ma. What do you say, Louis? I want it settled here and now.
At the end of the film, he came to me and said if I could help him to get another film part. And he obviously wasn't putting it on, he meant it. And I meant it when I said, you won't need my help. You'll find your parts yourself.
I never really wanted to do much in the theatre. You see, I've been a great film fan all my life. I mean, I literally, whenever I go to America, I carry an autograph book round with me. And I never say it's not for me, it's for my sister, you know. I always say it's for me, would you sign that? Because I really do. You see some incredible people there. I mean, marvelous people. I mean, some I know now over the years, but others I've, you know, like when I first met Walter Pidgeon or William Powell. I mean, I thought, God almighty, William Powell. I've sat there and watched him for years, you know. And I mean, it's ridiculous to ask for an autograph, except that, you know, you feel like you're compelled to, you know, you want to.
Sellers' success in The Lady Killers led to a string of other parts. He became such a regular player that no British film comedy seemed complete without him.
Thank you. And now, let me introduce you to the star of the show, the man who made it all possible, the Jack of all faces, the king of kindness, and the ace of good hearts, wee Sonny McGregor.
Here's to you. Here's to you, too.
Welcome, Sonny.
A great big welcome to all the old folk and the bonny young lads and lasses. I can't tell the difference, you know.
In 1958, he made The Naked Truth. He plays a TV star who's being blackmailed by Dennis Price. His character is a quiz show host who not only impersonates his guests, but uses his powers of mimicry to outwit his enemies. The whole film was conceived as a vehicle for his genius for characterization. Altogether, he played 8 parts. Here was an accolade, and a performance worthy of his hero, Alec Guinness.
What are you going on about, Mr. M?
Matter, Potter, matter. Murder by a person or persons unknown. By someone who doesn't even exist. A will-o'-the-wisp. Murder by a figment of my imagination.
Oh, no. No, you mustn't. You'd never get away with it.
I can smile and murder while I smile.
Oh, dear.
I'll drown more sailors than the mermaid shall.
It's the old Vic trouble, isn't it, sir?
I'll play the orator as well as Nestor. Deceive more slyly than Ulysses could. And like a Sinon, take another Troy. Now, would it be a good make-up to go snooping around that barge of his?
Mr. M, the telly's one thing, but real life's quite another. You'd only go and overdo it.
Why should I?
Because you always do.
Charming.
Frankly, you always overact most dreadfully.
I'll be sorry you said that, Porter.
All right, go on, fire me again. But for goodness sake, get this whole mad idea out of your head.
You're too late, my friend. The die is cast.
I saw The Naked Truth, and I remember coming out of that film and saying, that man is an extraordinary actor. I wonder if I could get him to do Brouhaha, which was a political satire about a Middle Eastern potentate who had oil and who played the Russians and the Americans off against each other. And I thought it was a very funny, extraordinary play, but it wanted a funny and extraordinary actor.
Sellers was starring in 4 or 5 films a year, making hit comedy records and appearing in the Goons every Sunday. Everything he did was successful. He was in a position to call the shots when Peter Hall invited him to make his first, and what would turn out to be his last, appearance in a West End stage play.
It was one of the most amazing and terrible experiences of my life, because one of the things about working in the theatre is that you have to repeat what you do every night, and you have to repeat it to the best of your ability, as well as you did the night before. This suits some people. Well, Peter couldn't bear doing it again and again and again.
In fact, I saw him when he fell off the stage in Brouhaha. I was sitting out in front with Dave Lodge, and I thought, oh my God, he's gone a bit far this time. And because he was doing a dance and he actually fell off stage with the actress.
I mean, he went on one day with a 16mm camera on his shoulder and he actually photographed the whole play when he was playing it. And they had, the rest of the cast knew nothing about it until they actually saw him doing it. And I used to get 2 or 3 phone calls a week from the management saying, come down here right away, he's done something terrible. You know. But that was again because he really doesn't like theatre, he doesn't like the discipline of it.
Peter started improvising new jokes, sometimes came on in new costumes from new entrances. He loved making the cast laugh. So he turned it into a kind of goon show.
My next most vivid memory of you was in a show called Brouhaha.
Oh.
At this time in your life, you were playing 8 shows a week. You were filming during the day. And on Sundays, just to make life a bit easier for you, you did the Goons show. How did you feel when Sundays came around and you had to face that script and the audience again? Sure.
Yeah, well, I used to live for the Sundays, you see. Those Sundays, you see, after a week of misery like that, we'd sort of get back to London and think, oh, my God, how marvellous, you see. So that's why the show was, for us, such an enormous release. And we used to pack so much energy into the show. And all our ideas and thoughts went into the show. Everything we had, we were just so keen to get it, to let people hear what was going on in our minds. This crazy, sort of strange fantasy that used to take place in our minds.
German officer outside, sir.
I surrender.
He had no stage fright. He was not a man who'd stand in the wings like the rest of us, trembling before he went out there. He'd be completely calm, and that was a feature of him that I found quite disturbing in a way, because I shouldn't have been climbing up the wall and he's just standing there not worried about it.
Peter would phone me up and say, "How's the script going?" And I said, "It's going like this. There was a man." I said, "I've got that down."
What time is it, Eccles?
Just a minute, I got it written down here on a piece of paper. And a nice man wrote the time down for me this morning.
Oh, then why do you carry it around with you, Eccles?
Well, if anybody asks me the time, I can show it to them.
The rest of us, apart from Spike, we're doing other things. It was like being in the playground after school on a Sunday, because we'd all be getting together with our own little jokes and things of what we picked up in the week. We'd all be chatting and laughing and blowing raspberries and telling naughty jokes, and then settle down to do the show. Spike was the one who suffered, you see, because Spike had to do the shows, to write them. But in the end, it was Spike on his own, and it really broke up his marriage and broke up his health. So he was the one who really has cause to think of the Goons show as not all that much fun.
Wait a minute, Eccles, my good man.
What is it, fellow?
It's written on this bit of paper, but it's 8 o'clock is written.
I know that, my good fellow. That's right. When I asked the fella to write it down, it was 8 o'clock.
Well, then, supposing when somebody asks you the time, it isn't 8 o'clock.
Well, then I don't show it to them.
I don't think you can define talent. I don't think you can make actors. Peter, in certain respects, he was as good an actor as Alec Guinness, or as good an actor as Laurence Olivier. And he had the ability to identify completely with another person and think his way physically and mentally and emotionally into their skin. Where does that come from? I have no idea. Is it a curse? Often. I don't think there's a correlation which is direct, though. I mean, I think it's not enough in this business to have talent. You have to have talent to handle the talent. And that I think Peter did not have. I think he was a genius. And I think his perfectionism made him extremely neurotic, extremely selfish. I mean, I'm sure always the play or the film was only about him, in his view. It's no good arguing with that. That's the nature of that kind of psyche.
On the back of all his success, Sellers was able to buy the first of many big houses. It was in Whetstone, North London. He dubbed it St. Fred's.
Well, now, this is a little film what could do with a bit of focusing while you're about it in there on the old lens. This is a film about me. My name's Fred Dewberry. That's right, that's better focus there. I can see much better now. And this is little Michael. This is me showing him round the garden and showing him some of my flowers what I grow there for Mr. and Mrs. Sellers. Now, I can show you this better if I have a bit of music. Ah, that's it, that's better.
Fashion.
Not too much, just about right.
Trousers.
Now then, there's me showing Michael my nericonnendrums. Now, they're beautiful flowers, they're nericonnendrums, and you can't get them, you know. You can't get them nowhere.
Now, this is Oakley Avenue, known as St. Fred's. It's really the first home I really remember. See, the extension isn't built on the house there even. The bit over the garage is not built at that point. So this is early stuff of early magnetic stripe, and I would imagine that he had just got a hold of the equipment and had made this film and had put the stripe on, and then quite evidently just turned it on, got hold of the microphone and ad-libbed his way through the film. It was a Somerset type accent, really. The all R. Gardner type voices.
And we're trying to see what sort of reproduction at 24 frames per second we get when we put the sound on permanent. You see, you have to have it on permanent. Michael! Michael! That's it, that was his dad. And there he is running over to his dad now. See that? There he goes. He's a lovely little fella.
I always remember him with a light meter, and I always remember this light meter dangling, because I was light meter height, and they were always there.
My memory of Peter is a house with cameras, lights, and lots of cable all over the place. You know, and drawers and cupboards full of cables and plugs and lamps and camera. I don't know, everything.
Oh, yes.
Michael! Michael! Come here at once, you naughty little boy.
And there's Michael going over to his mummy to see what she wants.
Now, here's a penny. I want you to go to get me some meat at the butcher's for the penny. You dropped it, you silly little boy. Hey, run along, darling.
And there's Chassie.
He also liked, he liked making models. He used to do that with Graham Stark.
I think we had the entire American battle fleet built, plastic models, and he would ring up and he said, Revels have just bought out the US Saratoga. We haven't built that, have we? I said, no, we haven't. So we would rush off, get this, and put the plastic kit together. I don't think it was, it was a bit, Anne was very patient, considering what we used to do. But we did like building models. Why not?
He said it was for Michael, but actually I think it was for himself. And he also liked trains, any toys that went round in, you know, that you could press a button. And again, gadgets, you see.
I'm all right, Jack, I'm okay. That is the message for today. So count up your lolly, feather your nest. Let someone else worry, boy, I couldn't care less. You scratch my back, I'll do the same.
They're all here in the first historical motion picture of the post-war world. The original record-breaking shower of comics are back again in the sequel to Private's Progress, I'm All Right, Jack. And now they're joined by Peter Sellers as Kite, a man who believes in striking while the iron is hot, or cold.
Brother Windrush, I'm obliged to put to you an open question. Did you or did you not, in fact, collaborate with the management?
Me? Collaborate?
You silly clot. My daughter, Cynthia, works here spindle polishing.
The Bolting brothers crown their efforts as the kings of British comedy with I'm All Right, Jack.
The move to international stardom did not surprise me. After his performances, particularly in I'm All Right, Jack, obviously he was going to go places, he really was. He did several other movies before he came to John and Roy, so he'd got acquainted with the cameras and the film studios. But John and Roy gave him an extra dimension, an extra gear change, which I think lifted him completely into a straight character actor. They gave him a fully rounded part. They gave him a very, very good part. They gave him a part where he didn't have to completely use his comedic qualities. He didn't have to look for jokes. He didn't have to pull faces. He had to play this man real.
In the 50s and 60s, the Bolting brothers were household names. Working as a team, John and Roy Bolting produced a string of acerbic comedies satirising various aspects of the British class system. The Boltings started where Ealing comedies left off. They'd attacked the church, the Foreign Office and the army, and with I'm All Right, Jack, they turned their attentions to industrial relations. Sellers was cast in the starring role of the irascible shop steward, Fred Kite. As always, he took his own film camera and filmed on the set.
We found him admirable to work with, very inventive, very quick to respond to whatever was suggested, a little eccentric off the floor, uncertain, and then we showed him the script of I'm All Right, Jack. When he had read it, he came back to John and myself, and he said, "But where are the jokes? Where are the laughs?" And we had to explain to him that we were not asking him to play the role of a goon. He came down to the studios, and we started to dress him up in the clothes that we had assembled, and the makeup and the haircut, moustache. And as he started to put it on, it was interesting to see him sort of adjust, physically adjust, to playing Fred Kite. And he was feeling sort of bad. You could see him start to assume the rather pompous attitude. About 30 seconds inside John saying, "Turn him over, action," suddenly the shop stewards came on the set and burst into laughter in the middle of a take. Cut. The whole thing was cut. And then all of them exploded. And Sellers, for Sellers, it was a revelation. And one could see, my God, it is funny.
Yes, here's another good one to start on. Collective childhood and factory manhood.
Oh, sounds fun.
Yeah, very descriptive. It's all about how they run factories in a workers' state. However, I won't spoil it for you.
You ever been to Russia, Mr. Kite?
No, not yet. It's the one place I'd like to go to, though. All them cornfields and Bali in the evening.
Oh, I wish I knew as much about it as you do.
You ever read any of Lenin's works, have you?
No, I'm afraid I haven't.
That'll open your eyes for you.
Is he still on about Russia? I'll tell you straight. That's all we ever get to hear in this house. Have another cup of tea, Mr. Windrush.
No, I won't. Thank you very much, now.
I'm All Right, Jack was one of the biggest British film hits of the year. Nominated against Laurence Olivier in The Entertainer, Sellers was named Best Actor by the British Academy.
Now, this is not in the film.
No.
But of course, he loved playing around,
Yes,
didn't he?
yes.
He loved toys. Now, look at that now.
Yes.
With that, he's loving that playing with that machine.
He would have worked, really, wouldn't he, as well, if he had been in the Hal Roach, Chaplin, silent films, the Buster Keaton stuff.
Oh, yes.
He'd been as successful as he is now with his invention. I lived quite near to Peter in North London, and he would quite frequently ask us back to his house at a weekend. He had intercom practically from one room to another, and he was into tape recorders, which we're going back now to sort of mid-50s. And he used to enjoy this business of, he'd get his ukulele out and he'd sing a song, like, "You're the cream in my coffee," and he'd sing it with the ukulele and play it back at the wrong speed, and we got all that chipmunk stuff, which was terribly childish, but it absolutely fascinated him, and he roared with laughter at all this.
I've got a clock that wakes me every morning for my train. I've got a corn that gives me warning when it's going to rain. I've had a dream that's coming true. I've got a sweetie in view. I'm as happy as I could be, 'cause I've fallen in love with the girl you see. I haven't told her, hasn't told me, but we know it just the same. Saturday night on her city, oh, what a time there's going to be. I haven't told her, she hasn't told me, but we know it just the same. She still calls me mister, but she won't, I know she won't, after I've kissed her. I've got an idea soon there'll be one little, two little, possibly three. I haven't told her, she hasn't told me, but we know it just the same.
Well, now, let's have a quick resume. Oh, that's better. Now,